Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back. We are picking up from when we spoke with him last time we got together. And it's about fear. Fear is holding us back. It's controlling us. We might not even realize it. And today we're going to work our way into anxiety. And these are things that all of us are dealing with in different shapes and form. But anxiety being a plug and play system. That's his belief. I'm not sure where we're going, but we always go somewhere in a very positive direction when we get together with our accelerated healing specialist. He is an intuitive, a coach, hypnotherapist. He's also an acupuncturist, and he is our professional of the year. Chris DiStefano back on the program. How's everything with you today?
Fantastic. Thank you. How about you, Steve?
Really good. Really good. I learned a lot last time we got together. The last thing we said, and it was like the light bulbs went off for me and others when I shared it with them, that the feeling and emotion of fear is the same as excitement. And excitement sometimes, many times, looks positive. Getting on a roller coaster, got a little bit of fear, but also it's exciting at the same time. And when we framed it that way, I was like, you know what? That makes total sense. But fear is the control, right?
It is. It's actually really wild that you say that, because the thought that I had before coming on is, if you ask anyone, whatever political persuasion in this country, how we're doing, they're going to say we're doing badly, because they're sold fear, and the fear is packaged and given directly to them because it is to control them. It's to make people, we are the product. Ultimately, this is not a judgment, it's a statement. And when we look at fear is an ultimate control mechanism, because it makes us want outside help. It makes us feel less strong. And how do we know what fear is? That's a really hard one, because so many things are operating from it. What's even the importance of this is, and I said this last time, when we make decisions from fear, those are wrong decisions. There's legitimate fear. That's the very small amount. Like, yes, if a tiger is coming after me and
Yep.
it says run, I'm going to run. That's a survival. That's straight fear. But once we get the elevated fear, our cortisol gets elevated, our brain does not work as well, our bodies start to degenerate. There's scientific proof everywhere that your default mood, my default mood, is going to affect every cell in my body. I am setting the weather for my body. So if I'm in this anxiety and fear state, I'm going to do what's considered safe, and I'm going to have very strict parameters for what's safe. And ultimately, this really is everything. I start to pretend to be a character. I start to lose who I am and lose my authenticity and act in the way that gives me perceived social, economic, whatever safety, whatever category you want to put it in, educational, fill it all in, not trusting myself and basically renting out my own safety to outside forces, because I've lost connection with myself. The fear has pushed it away.
I
So
totally
that,
see that. It's almost
yeah,
if it's like we are what we are, and now we have a coating like an M&M. The chocolate's inside, that's what it is, and now there's a coating on top of it, which
mhm.
yeah, it's good for the M&M, but that coating for us is fear, and it's not really who we are. We're just living a different persona because of that fear, the fear coating.
Yeah, that was most of my life. That was my depression. I wanted to be liked, so I acted a certain way. And guess what? No one likes a phony.
Yep. Yeah, I get you.
So that's ultimately when we are acting from that place of fear, when are acting to be liked, when we are acting to connect, as opposed to authentically being ourselves, loving ourselves enough to trust ourselves, to be present, open. Now we develop, people magnetically just trust, because we can sense that. We can't put it into words, we can't put our finger on it, And before I forget, one really important component to fear is control, as you said. And one component of control is the left side, rational side of the brain. We have to over explain, over understand. We get that analysis paralysis where I have to take one more class before I can do something. We do not trust ourselves. We need to have this entire, again, outside world validation because we've lost touch with our truth.
Hmm. You said a word I was thinking, and the word was authentic. And
Mhm.
I've always thought of being authentic, being your true self, meaning, if you are honest, have integrity, empathy, and all of that, you're being you. You're truly bringing you to the table where everybody is sitting, so to speak. But I never looked at getting in the way of your authenticity is fear. I never looked at it that way. That you're not being you because of fear. I always thought of being authentic as, be genuine, be the real you around others. But when you've got the fear coding, you're not being you. You're not truly being authentic.
It's even worse than that, Steve. And I've done this journey, so I'm speaking from firsthand, but I can also everyone. We don't even know who we are at a certain point. The people that are not in love with themselves. This is old me. I wanted to be other people. I wanted to have a different life. And that's the depression. That's like, okay, this is not a safe reality. I want another reality. And if you don't love yourself and if you don't decide that this life, you would not trade this life for anyone else's because then you don't know who you are.
Yep.
It's that far. The fear has pushed you so far out that you don't like the character you're playing and you can't see what's beneath it because there's so much clouding on the water.
But you feel uncomfortable. But and many times
Yes,
you're not sure
that's the
why.
deeper wisdom saying, good God, you can't keep living like this.
Mm, yeah. Because you're out of alignment, you're out of balance, and
Yeah.
we need to be in balance in life in all different areas, right down to nutrition, sleeping, exercise, on and on and on. But if you're not being yourself, especially because of fear, you're probably not sleeping well. You probably feel off and you're not really sure why. And then that leads to you eat more because you're trying to, feel comfort and on and on and on and on. Never
Oh,
really
that's if you're
thought.
lucky, Steve.
Mm,
You kick the anxiety up to 9 or 10 and you can't even eat.
yeah, I get you.
The autonomic nervous system, because this whole thing is happening under the surface. This is what we'd call subconscious or autonomic or disconnected from the heart, the heart and mind not being connected or out of our bodies. So it's kind of wild. It really hit me the other day what I do, what's unique about it is I've decided just by accident, predominantly rational and analytic, which is part of why I had the depression. So I went away from that and went into learning to connect to the body a lot more, learning to connect to the heart a lot more. So, and then I went from there and I went into a lot of spirituality. So what I've realized is I've made myself an expert, not an expert, an authority on the three pillars. That's the body, the mind, and the spirit. Each one independently. Every time I went into one, I pushed the others completely out of the way, thinking they didn't work. Now seeing that whole dance, yes, it is what you eat. It is the activity. It is how you see yourself. It is, most importantly, the building of trust and faith in ourselves. You see, that's what the fear does. It disempowers us. We don't trust ourselves at all. We want the world to validate us. And by seeking validation, we act foolish, false, and try to give what we think other people want, as opposed to giving our greatest gift, which is ourselves. And it's kind of strange when I talk about building trust or faith, people have a resistance because they're like, I'm selling religion. I'm not. It's more like when you learn to drive a car. Stick shift is an even better example. When you start driving, you're looking at everything. You are not really driving. You're like looking at, for stick shift, you're looking at the tachometer, which you really shouldn't do. It's all by feel, but you're thinking, it's all in your head. You're running through all the processes. And then it begins to become embodied. It becomes a healthy habit. to the point now, a seasoned driver does a lot of things they really shouldn't. They're flipping the radio, they're making coffee in the car, they're doing all of this stuff. And that is because they've gained mastery. They trust themselves maybe too much to drive that car, as opposed to the guy who's starting has zero trust in himself or herself.
Yeah, that was me. And I had this conversation with my daughter who is, learning to drive. And we were talking about manual transmissions. And I said, I remember I was in my mid-20s. I got a sports car. My dad had passed. I got a couple of bucks and I wanted to treat myself, in the wake of his passing, manual. And I was even telling her I was on the hill in Port Jefferson, New York.
Oh,
And
that's a
now,
hill.
and now I'm on a hill. And I got to remember that I got to roll back a little bit to kind of let the driver in back of me know that don't get too close because when I let the clutch out, I talk about fear. I'm like, I'm not gonna let it just easy so I don't tap that car in back of me. But so I got enough, room to engage it in first gear to move forward. That was a lot of fear. But eventually I guess it, like you said, autopilot eventually. But is that okay? Is that, we're using car analogy here, but is that okay to be on autopilot when you feel you've mastered things?
The way we're designed is we work on habit. That's why they say if you want to do something, do it for 21 days, do it for 28 days, whatever it is. Because once we build a habit, the mind goes towards efficiency. This is why we continue to do bad things that are harmful because we're used to it. It's a comfort zone. If we are building trust in ourselves, we're also, and I keep referencing this movie, I have to put it on my website, the movie Click, where he just fast forwards. That's running on the bad autopilot. That's becoming an NPC and not being conscious of where you are. What I'm describing is not the same type of autopilot. It's being in flow, operating without resistance. And so,
Hmm.
like everything else, we hop on a continuum of on one side is deeply pathological and the other is super authentic and healthy. So there's the detached autopilot of being an NPC, but then there's the fully immersed autopilot of running in flow. And that is, you look at a professional ball player or athlete, they're not thinking. You can't think when a 100-mile-an-hour fastball comes to you. It's all programmed reaction. They are in flow.
Hmm. The three pillars. Can we go back to that for a moment?
I would love to.
And we never dug into those. So body, mind, spirit, correct?
Yes, that would be also the three consciousnesses in our three primary consciousnesses.
Are you, when you've, let's just say the word mastered, the body, you're doing the right thing, you're exercising, you're fueling your body the right way, you're being intentional about all of that. Come to the spiritual side of things, you believe in something maybe bigger than yourself. Not talking about religion here, but if you want to throw that, that's your choice. Um, and the mind, you have a different mindset. Would you say once you've reasonably mastered all three of those that you're authentic now, or closest that you're going to get, or very much closer?
It's a never-ending journey, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's the process of enjoying the ride. There is no finish line. If we were to really have a finish line, it's when you're in the ground. So you shouldn't race there. Um, the three pillars are amazing because what we're calling spirit could also be called, if we want to use left brain and right brain, it could also be called the creative,
Hmm.
including innate creativity. So what happens, and this is what's the way I work is rather different than most people. I realize it all in hindsight, Monday morning quarterback. I would expand one of the pillars and I become slightly intense. And then I'm out of balance. And then I have to expand another pillar. And that if we only expand one of the pillars, we become pathological also. So you could do all the body stuff, but if you're doing it in an unhealthy way mentally, if you're not if you're doing it because you hate your body and how it is and you're trying to reshape it, if you don't have the love, What
Mm.
happens is you develop pathology anyway because the mind relates to the body. So if we're unhealthy in the mind, the body will begin to develop illness. If we're unhealthy in any of those, each of them reflects the other. That's why it's so important to actually become. When we look at great people in the past, and I love bringing up the founding fathers or Lewis Carroll, I think I brought up recently. This guy wrote Alice in Wonderland. He was a Queen's mathematician. He was an inventor. He was an artist. He was a this. He was that. These are all incredibly well-rounded people. We've watered down expectations in our society. When you look at the great people, when you look at even what the expectation was 100 years ago, we pushed ourselves farther to become more complete.
I see something here that I didn't see before when we talk about if you exaggerate one of the pillars. So you go to the body, somebody makes a decision, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to work out. Yeah, I was thinking more of them being obsessed with working out. They're going 2 times a day, 2 hours a pop. They're focusing all on that, but not focusing on the other pillars. But I wasn't looking at the focus. I was looking at the focus that way. You refocused me because it's one thing to say, you know what? I want to be more fit. I want to be healthier. It's another thing to say, I hate my body. I'm going to go to the gym, maybe even begrudgingly because you hate your body and you're just doing it with that mindset. It's almost, why bother? I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's kind of counterproductive when you say,
And you want to be like that influencer who's pumping steroids, doing human growth hormone.
yeah,
Oh, look, I want that body. I don't like this body. I want to be that person.
yep.
Now you've become the fear pattern. It's I am not enough because I'm not that. And you start doing all that stuff. Hormones are very, very powerful. Hormones are insanely powerful. So you start putting in the testosterone, you start doing steroids. That affects your mental state, that affects your attitude, and it's going to amplify this pathology.
Yeah. Mess up the other pillars at the same time, you know,
Always does.
right?
But then we get to learn. We get the
Yeah.
lessons, and as we've discussed, the lessons are sometimes, when I resist them, they become louder, and one would say unpleasant.
Hmm. Now you said plug and play system. Anxiety is a plug and play
Oh
system.
yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So I saw a patient on Halloween. Now I've known this for a while. It was actually I had a patient a few years back, and she had bipolar, and she'd switch over into the anxiety depression side. And when she did, it was because like her condo in Florida was having a couch delivered. This was like the most inconsequential thing. Like on a 1 to 10 problem scale, it was about a 2 because
Hmm.
it didn't affect day-to-day life. It was going to happen, blah blah blah. She was obsessing over it. What happens with the person that has anxiety? So this is a thought pattern. It's a fear-based thought pattern. And why do we keep running over it? It's an attempt to control something that we cannot. And so we run through 1,000 scenarios where as prepared as possible. It becomes a churn, and it's an amplifying system. It keeps getting louder every time it goes around. So it becomes real, and we get the body changes with it. The physiology goes into fight or flight fully. So she plugged in this thing with the couch. And next thing you know, she's on a full downward spiral. The couch didn't trigger it. The couch was the most convenient thing for the process to grab and plug in. I saw a patient on
Uh,
Halloween during the day. And this woman also tendency towards anxiety. And she's running through for her costume. She's like, this is like 11 in the morning. She's like, oh my God, I don't know if I can get black pants and green hair color in time for tonight. And I said, are you kidding me? I could walk outside to any store, find black pants, and walk to the Spirit Halloween and get green hairspray within 20 minutes. You're literally, because she has a tendency, and she saw the pattern. I saw her the other day. She's like, oh my God, that's really helped, because now if we can see when it starts to want to latch on, we can control the process there. We can derail the train before it gains the momentum. It's like What am I thinking? I'll just get this done. Push it out of the loop. Once the loop gains the momentum, it's a lot harder to control.
Wow. It's crystal clear. You know, if
I
you're,
know you could probably think right now of 5 examples where you've seen this happen.
and I'm even trying to apply it to myself. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
well, okay, here you go. I'm not the same person, but if you went back, say, 5 years, 6 years, I would worry about even financial stuff. You know, it was okay, everything was all right. But I would have that, well, what if, what if that client goes away? And what if this happens? And what if that happens? I would go to the gym and be on the treadmill for 12 minutes, plug and play. I plug a thought into my mind. Well, you know what? They left me a message. What if it's bad? What if they're cutting back on something? I don't reason to believe that. Well, if that's what I plugged in, and then I left the gym and just, because I was worried, I went back, to work. You can interchange anything, but if you're in the mode of fear and anxiety, and I don't think I have major anxiety, I would worry about things I didn't need to worry about. Now, honestly, I don't give a flying blank about
Yeah.
pretty much anything. I don't let it worry. I don't. That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But
And that's the stuff. That's what sets the bad weather for the body.
yeah.
That's what starts to damage the cells. That's what starts to eat away at everything. And it's ironic you say the treadmill, because one of the things that's proven to work with helping this is exercise, because you're moving it through the body.
Mm.
Obviously not all the time, but exercise is the most effective treatment for depression and anxiety. And interestingly, with a lot of what I do, I've already spoken a little bit about releasing the somatic, releasing the stored trauma from the body, because the body holds for the mind also. Like I have people do a lot of the rapid release right there. They'll pull their arms back. I have them focus on the back. 30, 40 seconds, they're in a full sweat
Mm.
because there's trauma stored in the chest muscles that they release without having to go through the whole story. The body can let it go, and then the mind no longer holds it, because after that they feel so clear and relaxed.
So when you say moves it, are we saying that that trauma is an energy that's stuck in you, and then you need to move through it, and by exercise, we can burn off that energy, move it out of your existence?
A lot of times there's stuck energy. Exercise is going to help with the movement, helps with movement.
Hmm.
So it helps with that pathological stuckness. The body, if you think about it, when you're stressed, the body tightens up. So you get movement, you loosen the muscles, you increase the flow of the body, that thins. The depression, you don't want to move. Everything's like just move. Movement starts to stimulate. Now, depression, easier said than done. You don't really want to move. So how do you get yourself to move? That's a chicken or egg type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of this. And one thing before I forget is really, really important. We go back to trust. Part of trust. How do you know if you're coming from fear? How does your body feel? Learning to trust and listen to the body. Does it feel right when you're doing something? Does it feel authentic? When you think about it, do you feel physically good or bad? Learning to actually, our society has really made the body just a dumb machine. The body is one of our three intelligences. Not listening to it is a mistake.
The It's interesting. So many people will say, "I'm stuck. I can't. I'm not moving forward. I'm stuck. I feel stuck." But that also translates to the energy. The energy is stuck. And even if you look at Chinese medicine, what do they say? Acupuncture, which you practice. What's going on there? It's stuck. Even the shoulder pain, I guess shoulder pain, what's most likely it's stagnant blood in that area, broken up by acupuncture, i.e., stuck in a way. And we're back the flow. What do they say in Chinese medicine? It's about the qi, which is the flow of good energy in your blood. So the stuck
Yeah.
thing is real in more ways than I think we think.
And a wild thing is I had a hard time visualizing for most of my life. Now it's become pretty cool. I unlocked something. and I sort of have a knowing of the directionality of different energies. And fear is interesting because it's a very contractive energy. Anger is almost better because it's explosive.
Mm.
So you think about a contractive energy, it's going to draw all the muscles in like this because we want to protect.
Yep. Yep.
So
Where
literally, I am stuck. I am frozen in fear. Or even, this is the best part because, like I said, we try to think our way out of it. We try to create all these scenarios. Analysis paralysis. That was, or perfectionism is another form of fear. I'm not good enough yet. It's not good enough yet. All of these are fear manifestations that are paralyzing us. Procrastination is a fear of engaging the task, and we will do anything other than, including doom scrolling. By the way, huge heads up. If you're doom scrolling, pay attention to what you're running from. Boredom is fear. I can't sit with myself.
many of us don't see most of these things as connected to fear. And just final thought here, what I'm feeling when you said you can't visualize, you weren't able to do that in the past, but now you can. I don't think it's just your sense of visualization increased. I think that was your intuition. I think you tapped into your intuition to have visions and a different perspective on things. I don't know why that dropped in my mind.
No, you're absolutely right. I blocked my ability to visualize because I was afraid. It was a fear-based, it was a safety mechanism.
Hmm.
I've
Yeah.
always been able to, but it was only very rare instances. And that's how I knew that I was blocking it.
Well, like they say, search and you shall find. If you use your
Yeah.
intuition, you're going to find stuff, or you're going to feel stuff. But then there could be, depending on the state that you're in, that could be scary. If you're feeling it, and then
Yes.
now you shut it down. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to deal with it. Um,
But one last really important thing, because you brought up intuition, and I did a meditation. I was at a retreat and I did a meditation that I want to connect to my intuition. This was like a year ago. And I got a message back clear as day. It said, "You've always been connected to your intuition. You did not have the courage to act on it. I let the fear of the rational limiting mind stop me from following my heart."
yep. And there it is. Um, Amazing how at the plug and play thing, oh my gosh, so real when it comes to fear. Where we look for it? Let me just plug that in. Oh, I feel better. But that's not the way it should be. How do we connect with you if somebody's trying to really make it the way it should be, or at least have a better understanding? I know obviously with acupuncture, that's where you are in Scarsdale, New York, but you can help people virtually anywhere. What's the best way?
Best way is my main website, scarsdalehealth.com. I am on Instagram, LinkedIn as accelerated_healing. I believe both of those, but always the easiest one is scarsdalehealth.com. You'll find me from there, and then everything else is going to be there. I am putting together a school program, SKOOL, that's going to have a lot of the exercises that I've developed to help open up, and those are absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to tell you about some of the successes maybe next time. It is blown my mind what's happening.
You blow my mind every time we get together, and I'm afraid to
You're
admit
too
that
kind, Steve. Thank you.
I plug and play all the time. Do I still do it? I think we all do it in some degree, maybe a very lesser, much lesser. I know me. I'm still thinking, am I plugging in, things in? I used to do it a lot though. Used to do it a lot. Thank you for today, Chris. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, Steve.
We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.